Hello. Recently, I read the book The Master and Margarita written by Bulgakov, and it impressed me very much. On the one hand, this book is very awkward and weird and strange, but on the other hand, it is very interesting and intriguing, and you just want to read it and know what will be next. And after reading this book, I took the tour and I visited places that are described in this book. I went through streets that are described in this book, and actually they're located in Moscow. And I want to share this information. I want to share my experience with you and to tell you a little bit about Bulgakov and this book. So if you're interested, continue watching this video. There are two types of people. The first one are those who don't like to know something about the plot before reading the book. And the second one are those who are inspired to read this book because of some facts that they've heard, because of some, moments from this book that they've heard. If you relate yourself to the first type of people, then maybe you should firstly read the book. But actually, there are no such great spoilers in this video, just interesting information about this book. And if you are the second type of people, then you should watch this video, because after it, you will certainly want to read this book and to understand all these things by yourself, maybe to find out something new in it. So firstly, I would like to tell some facts about Bulgakov actually, and it is important to know maybe not the whole biography of the writer, of the poet before reading his or her works, but it is important to know maybe some core events, because sometimes the works reflect the life of the poet or the writer. So the first one, Bulgakov had 3 wives. And we have such a saying in Russia that the first wife is from the god, the second one is from the people, and the third one is from the devil. And actually this saying can be very well associated with the life of Bulgakov.
The first wife was really patient. She saved his life twice, and she loved him very much. His second wife was very simple but kind, and she was an inspiration for him. And his third wife is considered to be from the devil because she became the prototype of Margarita. She had some common points with Margarita. She also had a husband, but she loved Bulgakov, and they tried to stop this romance, but they couldn't. Moreover, some features of the appearance and character were taken from his third wife.
Bulgakov was obsessed with Gogol, and they had some common points in their lives. So I will tell you one. For example, Bulgakov started writing this novel in 1928, and he burned the first manuscript in 1930 because he just didn't see the prospect of his work in the Soviet Russia. And if you know, Gogol also burned his second volume of Dead Souls. Bulgakov was a doctor. And once he saved the life of the girl, and this girl had a disease that could be treated only by the method that could harm another person. And then after that operation, Bulgakov started to take morphine, but later he became addicted to it. He tried to quit it, but it is unlikely that he did it because the traces of morphine were found on the manuscript of the Master and Margarita later after his death, and maybe it can explain the weirdness of this novel. There are 2 parallel plots and settings in this book. So the first one is Moscow in 1930s, where the devil appeared in patriot pawns. in the guise of Professor Walland, the magician. And the second one is Jerusalem, with the story about Pontius Pilate that was told by Walland and later was described in the Master's novel. This part of the novel concerns Pontius Pilate's trial of Yeshua HaNotzri, who is considered to be Jesus Christ, and his spiritual need for Yahusha. The story about Pontius Pilate is considered to be the devil's or the Satan's version of the Bible, and actually the whole novel is supposed to be the life from the devil's perspective. And actually this book made me think that devil is not so bad, because in this book he punished those people who did some bad things, for example had romances or took bribes, and it was quite fair. And even at the end of the book, Yahusha HaNotzri or Jesus Christ asked the devil to do one thing. I won't tell you what thing, but actually it showed that he was not able to do this thing. The theater verite that is described in this book is actually supposed to be the modern theater of satire. It is interesting that when Veronucha wanted to go to the police, he firstly went to the toilet, and this toilet is still existing, and it's just like a historical toilet. Why did the devil and his company appear in this certain place in Moscow?
During the Soviet times, a lot of churches were demolished in this place, so it is considered to be an unsafe place and it is not protected from the dark forces.
So in one of such places where the church was demolished, the cross was established, and this cross was dedicated to the saint that was beheaded. Maybe it is a coincidence, maybe it is not. But near this place, Berlioz from the novel was also beheaded. So maybe Bulgakov showed this story about all these churches and about this monument, this cross, in his book.
Patriarch Ponce. It was the first appearance of the devil Voland and Karaviev there. This place was considered bad in Moscow. Earlier sheep gazed there, and then it came into the possession of the Patriarch and named after him.
Later, a famous architect wanted to dedicate this park to this novel and made some monuments of the characters in this park, but people who lived there were against it. And as they later said that they were not against this party, they were not against this novel, they were not against Bulgakov, they were against the plans of the architect who wanted to build a big shopping center there, so he needed to demolish some houses, and it would be awful for these tiny cute houses in Moscow, in this old Moscow.
There are 4 houses that are considered to be the house of Margarita, and this one that you see is really beautiful and is also included in one of these 4 houses. Actually, this house reminds me of some Spanish palaces, but not a Moscow house.
It is interesting that in first version, original version of this novel, there was no love story. And only after the appearance of the third wife of Bulgakov, he added this love line and called the novel The Master and Margarita. It is the moment when translation in other languages harms the book. Because in English, the address of this flat is number 302A Sadovaya Street, Moscow. And in Russian, it sounds completely different. In Russian, it sounds like 302 bis or 302 bis. And actually, before the tour, before the excursion, I didn't realize what it means and why Bulgakov called it like this. But after it, I understood, and it is quite cool. I'll try to explain you this, but it will be very hard.
So let's look. Bis means encore or bravo. 3 plus 2 is 5. Bravo, encore, it means please repeat this number. 5 plus 5 is 10. Bis, B means большая or big in English, and S means Sadova. Большая Sadova or big Sadova in English. It is a street in Moscow. So, this whole stuff means that this house is located in Большая Sadova Street and its number is 10.
Nowadays, nobody lives in this house where Bulgakov lived. There are some just museums and offices, and it is interesting that the writer who has the biggest number of museums in Moscow is Bulgakov. You know, he has 3 museums, and even Tolstoy has 2 museums in Moscow.
When you walk out the stairs to the flat, there are a lot of inscriptions, paintings, phrases from the book. Some people even ask something from the devil. By the way, there are lots of requests to pass the final exams from students. And it is a very atmospheric place. I wanted to see it again and I went there twice because you just feel the atmosphere of the book. You just feel that you are in this book, you're in the place where all these events happened.
There is an interesting story about the black cat. So there is another museum in the same house, but it is made more for commercial purposes because Bulgakov has never been there. And they bought a cat, and at the first day of their opening, this cat went to the flat of Bulgakov where he lived. So it's just amazing, it's just shocking.
"Excuse me, please," said the stranger with a foreign accent, although incorrect Russian, for permitting myself without an introduction, but the subject of our long conversation was so interesting that here he politely took off his beret, and the 2 friends had no alternative but to rise and bow. "No, probably Frenchman," thought Berlioz. "A Pole," thought Bezdomny. I should add that the poet had found the stranger repulsive from first sight, although Berlioz had liked the look of him, or rather not exactly liked him, but, well, been interested by him. "May I enjoy you?" inquired the foreigner politely, and as the 2 friends moved somewhat unwillingly aside, he adroitly placed himself between them and at once joined the conversation. "If I'm not mistaken, you were saying that Jesus never existed, were you not?" he asked, turning his green left eye on Berlioz. "No, you were not mistaken," replied Berlioz courteously. "I did indeed say that." "Oh, how interesting!" exclaimed the foreigner. "What the hell does he want?" thought Bezdomny and frowned. "And do you agree with your friend?" inquired the unknown man, turning to Bezdomny on his right. 100%, affirmed the poet, who loved to use pretentious numerical expressions. "Astounding!" cried their unbeaten companion.
So that's all for this video. I hope that it was interesting and informative for you, and I hope that you will read this book or reread this book if you read it before or after this video. It is translated in many languages, so I think you can find it in your own language and read it. And this book is very intriguing and crazy. Just it is worth reading and it is worth thinking about. So thank you for watching this video. Bye. On the one hand, it is a weird blah blah. Or as you went through Berlin, you will if you blow the Satans or the devils. Blah blah blah. And even at the end of the book, the devil. It's like Master and Margarita. And by the way, я уже говорила, by the way, there is an interesting strawberry